any of you are like me, sometimes it's kind of hard for you to make decisions. You go through life and you're like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do. For me, 3 years ago, I decided that I wanted to buy an iPod. Well, I bought it last month. It takes me a while. I research things, I'll go through and kind of just say, okay, let me read this or read this article there. My wife will tell you that I never decide on what we're going to eat. She'll constantly ask me, and I'll constantly tell her I don't know. It's some kind of food. But if any of you are also like me, there's times when you just kind of look skyward and you're like, God, what do you want? What do you want me to do? I'm doing what I think I should, but it's just not turning out right. Really, what do you want from me? Well, in today's passage, we're going to find that out. We're going to find out what God wants. In Micah, we find a man who was a prophet. They exploited and downtrodden people of Judah. He hadn't seen much justice in his life during his time. So there was a lot of things that Micah, was just like, God, really, what do you want? And in Micah 6, it shows us what God wants. So if you grab a Bible, turn with me. If you're using one off the back of the pew, page 576 is the beginning of Micah. So you'll be able to find that. Of course, if you're using your own Bible, it's towards the end of the Old Testament. It's one of the minor prophets. It's right after Jonah. So, and you'll be able to turn with me to that. So, in Micah chapter 6, verse 8, we see Micah tell us, He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So right there, in that one verse, we find out that God has showed us what is good, and what is good in God's eyes is for us to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with Him. Okay? That's what we're going to talk about today, what God wants, what He wants us to do. Okay? First thing He wants us to do is to act justly. Like I said a few minutes ago, Micah had been, he was a prophet in Judah and had seen his people exploited and just, the leadership, the kings and everything had just made it where the poor could not make it. There was very little justice in his life. And acting justly is as simple as being fair in what we do, making sure that we treat each other equally. Later in chapter 6, verse 11, Micah shows us that what we should do. We should be fair in everything we do in just our everyday life. Micah says, "Shall I acquit a man with dishonest scales, with a bag of false weights?" Are you going to let a man? Are you going to treat another man unfairly by taking these scales and putting your false weights on there so that he gives you more? That's not what we should do. We should go through our life and we should bring each other in and treat each other with the same amount of fairness as we expect to get. Earlier in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 18, we see Abraham talking directly with God. He's one of those guys that had that relationship that would have been just awesome for us to be able to experience. Abraham is talking directly with God, and it's about God wanting to destroy Sodom. And Abraham looks at him and says, God, hey, you've got to be just. Will you save Sodom if we can find 50 righteous people? And God goes, yeah, okay, 50 people. All right, all of Sodom will be saved if you can find 50. And Abraham's like, okay, well, that's pretty good, but what about if there's only 20? okay, if there's only 20, all right, we'll save Sodom. We won't destroy, or I won't destroy Sodom. Abraham's like, okay, well, what about if there's only 10? Abraham's going, I don't know how righteous Sodom is, but if we can just save all of them just because of 10. And God says, okay, Abraham, we'll do that. And in verse 16 of chapter 18 of Genesis, Abraham says to God, far be it from you